Well, good morning, lovely ladies and gentlemen. Steve Collins coming to you from cloudy, drizzly San Antonio, Texas, the second most powerful, passionate, purposeful coach and speaker in the world. Hope you guys are fired up and ready for a fantastic day today. As you can hopefully see, I'm back in the Batmobile. I'm really excited. I'm a car guy. I like cars a lot. They're a lot of fun, and I missed my Batmobile so much. Good Batmobile. Missed it a lot. God, family, and business. You've probably seen this. You've probably heard this. It sounds like a concept that appears to be rhetoric for most people. And quite frankly, it is. Most cute sayings are sayings that people will say, not truly recognizing what it requires to manifest them. So what I would like to do for you is share with you what I did for the last 19 years that may help you, and which I continue to do to this day, and why most people do not employ it, especially those who are self-employed. God, family, and business. At Keller Williams, this is something that Gary Keller set out as a value statement for the whole world to see. You know, Keller Williams is not a publicly traded company. It's 100% debt-free. Gary Keller lives on less than 1% of his income, which is still, obviously phenomenal, but he reinvests it into creating opportunity for the agents in his market centers. And so here's what God, family, business looks like when you are in business for yourself and you have control over your schedule. You have something on your schedule planned, and there are obviously weightier, more critical appointments that carry a significant weight with them. And yet, at any given time, no matter what your appointment was, let's just say that you had an appointment to meet with the President of the United States, and your kid got hit by a car. Would you be like, well, sorry, little Susie, I got an appointment with the President of the United States? Of course not. Your priority always shows up in an emergency. And what I'm helping people to understand is that you don't have to wait for an emergency for your priority to show up. You just have to be okay with the story you tell yourself about potential loss. So here's what I mean. Building my real estate practice over the last 17 years before I handed it off and now manage it from the outside, not selling anymore. Building that practice and having 7 kids, it was a critical value to me to be present as often as I could for everything. That was my goal. I was never going to do a Sunday, which I didn't, and I was never going to miss any of the kids' games when I had options. Now, if I had an emergency to serve a client, and it was an emergency and it wasn't about making money or advancing my career or building the business, if it was an emergency, I always tended to emergency, because that's just the nature of being a professional. You are responsible, you get stuff done. I just created such phenomenal systems that I didn't have emergencies. I think I had one emergency in the 17 years I practiced that affected my schedule. So here's what it would sound like. Let's say that I had an appointment to lead generate or make my phone calls from a certain time to a certain time. I was all fired up, reared up, ready to go. And then I would get a call from Angela that one of our kids had a fever and another one had a doctor's appointment, and they couldn't keep, we couldn't keep that one at home or take the sick one with. I would immediately cancel what I was doing and I would go assist. I would go help. So every time I had plans to do my own work with my schedule that had to do with building the business or growing the business, and a family need came up, I always chose family need, not because I'm fabulous, but because it's a priority. And a true priority doesn't show up until there's a conflict. That's how you know if it's really a priority or if it's just rhetoric. You can say God comes first, family comes second, business comes third, and yet does your schedule reflect it when there's a conflict? Now, when someone is self-employed and has the flexibility and the freedom to adjust schedule, that's where you have the most liberty to actually exercise that right. And yet, I had to have a conversation first with me and second with God in every situation that I walked away from business in order to be there for my family. And that would be, let's say that I had a football game that I was going to go to that night with one of my kiddos. and somebody said, hey, it's great, you can list my house. It's got to be tonight at 6 o'clock, and the football game's at 6 o'clock. Well, I have a priority. I have a family commitment. So I had to have, in a split second, already addressed that, and I already had a script for that, which was simply this. I appreciate that. I have a prior commitment that I cannot get out of, and I will not be able to do that. So if you would like to hire me, we're going to need to reschedule. I never had a client one time say, oh, well, sorry, that's the only appointment I ever had available in my whole life, and I will hire somebody else. Never. I just said it with conviction. I have a prior commitment, and I cannot do that appointment. You see, though, I was ready, willing, and able, and okay with them saying, well, then I'm not going to hire you, because it was a priority. So here's the conversation I would have with myself if that ever happened. And I'll give you a perfect example, because it's the same conversation I had with myself. It's the same conversation I would have with myself when I would go to a listing appointment and I had an unrealistic seller who was unwilling to price the house correctly because, I just need an extra $40,000. I know houses are not selling for that, but I just really need this extra 40 grand. Well, sweet love, sugar plum, monopoly money doesn't come falling out of the sky from buyers because you want an extra 40 G's. It don't work like that on planet Earth, ERFF. It don't work like that on planet Earth. It just don't work like that. Just because you want an extra 40 G's don't mean someone's going to pay you for it. There is history. There is appraisals. Long story short, don't let me get weird about that. So when I'd have an unrealistic seller that would say, well, Billy Bob with Billy Bob Realtors, triple syllable guy, with Billy Bob Realtors said he would list at my price. And I would know that that was a price. Not only would it not sell, not only would it not have any showings, but it wouldn't even appraise. And I would just say, then you know what, I'm not the realtor for you. Now, there is a huge number of people in different real estate companies that would say, well, take the listing no matter what, because at least you'll get sign calls and you'll be able to get some buyers. So even though the house doesn't sell in 6 months, you'll still make money. Well, Sugar Plum, they're not hiring me to turn their house into a marketing piece for myself to get business while they're miserable cleaning the house day after day after day after day after day, fighting and arguing over making the beds and cleaning the dishes and putting away the laundry and pushing the pets out. That's not what they hired me to do. They hired me to tell them the truth. I would walk away. I'd say, I'm not the realtor for you. I would get in my car, and here's the story I would tell myself. That was not a loss. I did not lose a commission. I did not lose income. I have a scripture that says, seek first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these other things will be added to you as well. I didn't just lose money. I just sowed a seed of righteousness. I just did the right thing. And it feels like it cost me income, and yet it really didn't, because I did the right thing, and doing the right thing is a priority over money. Serving is a priority over money. Integrity is a priority over money. Family is a priority over business. So it would feel like an initial loss. I would have a conversation myself. This isn't a loss. This is a gain. And then I would remind the author of the book of what he said when I follow that. I'd say, Lord, feels like a loss, but you said that if I seek first your kingdom and righteousness and do the right thing, that you'll add all this other stuff to me. And so I didn't lose anything. You just said that I just sowed a seed. And when I sow one seed, it actually sprouts up and produces more. So I thank you that I'm going to get a greater return on this than if I had taken this in deception. So you just have to make sure you know what your priority is right off the bat. You have to make sure that you know what your priority is right off the bat. And your priority is only truly tested when there's a conflict. So the next time you have an opportunity to be on your schedule, on point, make stuff happen, get it done, and you have flexibility in your schedule, and you have a family situation that arises, if family is your priority, then you choose the family. And you keep doing it over and over again. Now, there are certain things you get used to, certain habits you walk into that get easier over time. Then there are things like, let's say, hitting your thumb with a hammer. That is not something that gets easier over time and that you get used to. Every time you hit your thumb with a hammer, it's going to hurt like Hades. Every time I made a choice for the family, it hurt a little bit, because I had to have the conversation with myself that this is not a loss. This is not going to hurt the business. And whatever consequences come from me not lead generating, or from me not going on an appointment, or from me not doing what I intended to do in order to put my family first, I was willing to accept the consequences of that. I just decided I'm willing to accept the consequences of it. And there are some things you just really don't compromise on, because as soon as you compromise it, it's like sticking your finger in a big dam, and as soon as you pull it out, buddy, you just bust that dike and you open yourself up to everything else that can come with it. So, God, family, business. Moving from rhetoric, or it's just what I say because it sounds so cool, to actually living it, where you feel like you've had to make sacrificial decisions and choices to maintain that priority. Conversation with you first. This feels like a loss. It's not a loss. This is just me exercising my priority. And number two, you have a conversation with the good Lord and say, I'm doing the right thing here. I'm doing what I know is right, and I ask you to bless and honor that. And just give him an opportunity to bless and honor it. And sometimes you see that blessing show up quickly, sometimes you don't. Your job is just to be faithful to your priority. Here's what I will tell you if you are the parent of children. And I'm going to stop so I can look you in the eyeballs for this one. My promise to you is this: no matter how hard family life gets in the future, no matter how difficult things get from time to time, you will never look at yourself in the mirror and say, I regret putting my family first. I regret sacrificing for my family. I regret putting them as a priority. I should have done more work. I should have made more calls. I should have been more engaged in my appointments. You will never regret putting your family first. Will it hurt? Yeah. Is it going to be hard? Yeah. Is it your job? Yeah. Guys, have a great day.